May 25th at the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, CLR James Auditorium. The theme this year is the need for black unity, education and reparations. Our guest is David Mohammed, who is the Eastern Caribbean's representative for the Nation of Islam. David, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. Before we start with the substantive topic, there's so much misinformation and so many misconceptions about persons or groups, sometimes extremely radical fundamentalist groups, claiming to be doing their due in the name of Islam. One such group is Boko Haram that's dominated the news. 200 plus girls in Nigeria. A comment from you on that and how people can distinguish between what I think my interpretation of Islam is from living in Trinidad and Tobago to what we see there.
Well, firstly, in a recent article that I wrote and also a radio program, I called on the media, particularly our local media, to desist with immediate effect from referring to Boko Haram as an Islamic or Islamist organization based on three basic principles of Islam. One, Islam is totally against the taking of hostage or kidnapping of women under all circumstances. The Ayatollah Khomeini in the famous Iranian Revolution, which has also been called the Islamic Revolution, when the students captured the American embassy, they immediately released all of the women. That is basic standard principle, regardless of what the circumstances are. Women are taken as hostage under no circumstances or conditions. Secondly, Islam is totally against taking children for hostages or kidnapping children. And of course, in this instance, they are both female and children, the victims. And finally, Islam is totally against slavery. Surah 2 verse 177 in the Holy Quran, which gives Muslims instructions on how they should use their money for charity, for the near of kin, the orphan, the wayfarer, the widow, for the beggar, and that our money should also be used for the emancipation of slaves. Surah 90 verses 12 and 13 in the Holy Quran also tell the Muslim that he must engage in the uphill road, which is the freedom of slaves or the emancipation of captives. And in the Hadith, it says that on the Day of Judgment, the person who will be the adversary of God is he who was bought and sold a man as a slave. So when you look at these three factors, all three that the Boko Haram group are guilty of, the media should really not be referring to them as Islamic.
But they've identified themselves as such.
Right, but that's very easy to do. But I take you back, for example, and there are several examples like this. July 2011, Anders Breivik in Norway shot and killed close to 100 people.
Of the island.
Yeah, and he referred to himself as a Christian crusader who was seeking to preserve traditional Norwegian Christian values.
But the media doesn't call him a Christian.
Yeah, even though he called himself a Christian, the media dare not. I'm sure you're familiar.
So it's because of the 9/11 and all of that.
Well,
do you think sometimes the media tends to treat Islam in that way?
Right, but even before 9/11, you have historically a number of cases of oil trade disputes, OPEC, United States, going back to Iran in the 1950s, where, and even when Richard Nixon in the 1970s said the greatest threat to Western democracy is not communism, but it is fundamentalist Islam. And the reason that those kinds of remarks were uttered was because that fundamentalist Islam was seen as a capitalist economic threat to the prosperity of industrialization.
So you think it's a combination of ignorance and agenda?
Yes, it is. But it even goes beyond that. When you look at the fact that you would never hear a term like Seventh-day Adventist gunman, Roman Catholic bandit, or Anglican hijacker, etc. Even Guy Fawkes Night, which is fireworks night, November the 5th, 1605, when the Catholics were displeased with the idea that an Anglican church would be established, they plotted to blow up the British Parliament. How more terrorist can you get than to blow up the Parliament of the United Kingdom? And even though it was a group of Catholics who were motivated not by politics or economics, but by religion, up to this day, history has been so kind to them to never use their religion to label them. Even the anthrax scare, some years ago, where we were all afraid to open envelopes. That probably boosted the email situation.
At the time.
Yeah, it was a Christian group that were trying to get their views on anti-abortion known. But again, you know,
was a group that called themselves Christian.
Exactly.
So that's the difference. As you're saying, a group that calls themselves Islamic. All right, let's move to our substantive issue, the African Unity Conference. Our keynote speaker, Brother Akbar Muhammad. Let's get a bit about his bio.
Right. Well, Brother Akbar Muhammad was a contemporary of Malcolm X in the Nation of Islam in the 1960s. He is now the international representative of Minister Louis Farrakhan. He has traveled to close to 170 different countries, and he has served as an ambassador for the Nation of Islam. He's been to every part of Africa. He has a headquarters in Ghana. A tremendously knowledgeable spokesperson on the black struggle of communities in just about every country in the diaspora that you can think of. Really an incredible, amazing representative.
When I look at